seeing, I would guess in the background is a piece of this TV set.
Yeah.
Most likely it's framed
Yeah.
like this. All right, so you see the TV set. With chroma key coming along, all we needed to do was put a blue screen behind you and I.
Yes.
And then we could insert on that blue screen whatever we wanted to put in there.
Yeah.
It would make us look like we're in Paris.
Yeah.
Or we're right now we're in the we're in Venice in a gondola.
That's
and
right.
And we're going down. So
Yeah.
when that came along, he realized that he could take small magazine covers and have them made that would be about this high.
Yeah.
And put those behind
Slides.
as slides
Yeah.
and make it look like a giant set of a magazine.
Yeah.
And he realized that, and he told me that morning. He said, there's this chroma key. You know about chroma key? And I said, yeah, I've heard about it. And he said, I can make magazine pages this big, and I can key them behind Mike Wallace and Morley Safer and make them look like they're gigantic.
Oh,
and I said, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And
so,
look, Steve was the first to know about 60 Minutes.
That's true.
You were the first to know.
I probably was the first to know about it. It was on the air. They did a pilot, and I guess it took about 3 months, and then it was on the air. And what astounded me, I found out years later, was that 60 Minutes was out of 60 shows in television, it was number 59. It was at the bottom of the barrel for a long time. I didn't realize that.
Yes.
And then it was when it changed to the Sunday night time slot. At 7 o'clock, it found its place.
Yeah, and it was number 1.
And now it's been number 1 and up 10.
That chroma key, boys and girls, that replaced the rear screen projector. And you'll see chroma key on, on the 6 p.m. news. You see what's up behind.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, you see right up behind the anchor's shoulder. That's the chroma key.
Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So anyway, that's taking you and trying to sell you things. It'll be a soft television. It'll be a respite. You'll get a chance to rest between movies. And so we did some very interesting, inexpensive, simple ideas in those days. And that lived on. I mean, things went very well at HBO because they began to look like they were a national network. And now, when they took themselves seriously, then the world began to take them seriously. And so HBO takes off. And then an opportunity came along for me, which I did not expect, out of the blue. I get a letter. I'm at HBO for almost a year and a half, 2 years. And I'm loving that place because of that first-time experience, that wonderful pioneering experience. And I get a letter from a guy named Steve Somer. Steve Somer is now the Vice President of Advertising and Promotion for the CBS television network.
I particularly enjoyed it, of course, having known you for so long.
That's exactly
and
right.
there are a lot of things in there that I hadn't heard that I was fascinated by.
Well, it's lovely to see you, too, after all these years.
Now, boys and girls, you're in the Time Life building, and here's the head of the whole thing, the Executive Vice President of Time Inc., Mr. Gerald Levin. Hi, Jerry.
Glendora, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Terrific.
Jerry, you were born where?
Philadelphia.
You were?
Yes.
And did you go to school in Philadelphia?
Yes, I did. I went to public school and then to Haverford College.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Yes. Is that the Quaker college?
It is a Quaker school
Yes.
right outside of Philadelphia.
Well, that's wonderful.
Sure is, yeah. I every now and then get a chance to get back there, too.
Oh, that's nice, yes. And Jerry, what did you take as an undergraduate?
Surprisingly, Glendora, I majored in English and biblical literature.
Well, that's good.
I think so. It's served me well.
It's a good background. Surely it has served you well. And then did you go on to graduate school, or did you go out in the business world?
No, I went on to law school.
Oh.
Went to the University of Pennsylvania.
Yes.
And studied law and went from there to Wall Street.
You did?
Yes.
How did you get that job on Wall Street? I think the youth would like to know.
It was a practice at that time, just a few years ago, 25, that if you wanted to pursue, in my case, antitrust law or business law, it was very helpful to go to Wall Street, to join a Wall Street law firm, to get that kind of experience. I didn't think at the time that I wanted to practice law for the rest of my life, but it was a very helpful way to get a background in business, and also at the same time to what we used to call pro bono publico, to do some outside legal work to help, in this particular case, indigent defendants.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was an opportunity, and at the time I participated in several civil rights cases.
Oh, that's nice if you did that.
So that was a nice balance between business.
Sure.
And at the time we had several clients who were in the motion picture business, Madison Square Garden, and sports, and some early cable companies, which was my beginning interest in the business. Although I left the practice of law, and at the time, this was in the middle 60s, when my idealism was as strong then as it is today, and worked for several years with a man named David Lilienthal, who had been the first chairman of the Atomic Energy Commission and the Tennessee Valley Authority. And we trained Peace Corps volunteers for service abroad. We assisted in development projects in developing countries, and spent a lot of time working with engineers, economists, and technical people. So that was a helpful way for me to spend a few years, but it also gave me the opportunity to make the transition from being a lawyer to an executive.
Those were all such good things you did, and also interesting.
Very interesting.
You loved them, didn't you?
Very interesting.
And that was when you kind of got an interest in cable?
I did, which was right about 15 years ago, a little bit more than that, that I ended up at what was Manhattan Cable, called Sterling Manhattan.
That's right.
And it was in the very early days of major cable systems. And I came to work with Chuck Dolan.
That's right. He's a wonderful man.
Terrific. And we had a project that didn't have a name, but it was supposed to involve the concept of taking some movies and sports, putting them on cable, and charging the consumer directly. Pay television, which at the time was almost an un-American word. There had been several campaigns against it, and we put a small team together, did some research, and came up with a business plan. And I remember very clearly, this was the summer, I think, of 1972, where we had to come up with a name in order to send out a brochure to the pay. And we said, just the two of us were sitting in a room like this, and came up with the idea of, well, what we're really talking about is a new kind of television, a box office in the home. So for purposes of the test, we'll call it a home box office.
Those are the magic words, and look where it is today.
And we thought, well, certainly we'll come up with a better name after that, but the name stuck.
No, it's a good name.
It's a good name,
Very good name.
And it communicated the concept. So
think where you'd be today without that name.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, it's interesting. Today is the early part of November. It's exactly 15 years ago. The first cable cast for home box office was November the 8th, 1972.
Really?
Yes.
Yes, and this is November the 10th.
Right. So it's almost
15
exactly
years and 2 days.
15 years. And when I think how much has changed since then, both in the cable television industry and the broadcast industry generally, it's very exciting. In those days, this was before we went on the satellite. It was just there was an early promise, but it's pleasant to be able to look back on that.
You know what I think about that? What a thrill to be on the frontier, you know, in the 1970s when things were so far along technologically. How nice to be on the frontier.
Well, it is. One of the exciting things about cable is that even today, it's still the frontier. There's still a lot to be done, and particularly for young people, I believe this strongly, that cable, while it's in almost 50% of the homes, something that would have been hard for us to imagine even 15 years ago.
Really?
But the development of not only HBO and the pay services, but public access, the basic cable networks. We just had the first NFL game on ESPN. What cable news network has meant to news coverage, but there's still much to be done, and it's a young enough industry and growing substantially and charting its course, so that I think for young people, I still believe it's it's a remarkable career opportunity.
Oh, good to hear, and that's exactly what this program is about. Now, Jerry, after the HBO got running and everything, what were you doing after that?
Well, we spent several years developing HBO, then put it up on a satellite, and we then, in addition to being a cable programmer, acquired and built upon our system in Manhattan, and eventually merged it with ATC, American Television Communications.
The biggest one.
Yes, ATC, next to TCI, the biggest.
Oh, TCI is the biggest.
And so I spent several years after that running our video group, both HBO and ATC, and building that and working with a marvelous set of executives. And then moved on into the corporate management, which is what I'm doing now, to help with our magazines and books as well as cable and HBO.
Oh, okay, so you've got magazines, you've got books,
Yes.
you've got HBO, you've got Manhattan Cable TV and ATC.
That's right. And in our magazines, we're very proud. The company really started with Time magazine in 1923, and most recently we developed a People magazine, which is very successful, and Sports Illustrated, Life magazine, which I grew up with. We're now trying to make it contemporary for young people to be interested in journalism. And the other idea, something we've experimented with, and cable I think will play a significant role, is not just CNN video news, but also electronic information, the long-term ability to send information in many different forms, retrievable by computer, that can be distributed by cable, so that eventually the consumer will be able to choose his or her information, entertainment in any format, video, alphanumeric. We see a great future in that, and we want to convert our print journalism to video and electronic format.
Another frontier.
Yes, another frontier. And we're also a major book publisher, because even in this
Time Life Books?
Time Life Books, a Book of the Month Club,
Book of the Month Club?
and Little Brown. We just celebrated, this is hard to believe in business, the 150th anniversary of Little Brown.
Wow.
It's founded in 1837 in Boston.
Yeah. That's right, in Boston, right.
Distinguished authors, Louisa May Alcott, J.D. Salinger. So that's the range, and it's I think it's fruitful that our cable business and HBO is a part of that family that's dedicated to information and entertainment in all formats, including the video cassette. We have HBO has a video cassette division and releases films on cassette, as well as additional programming. We just released a program that HBO is doing with Sports Illustrated based on various aspects of sports, and it's being sold in video stores now.
Well, I think I've seen advertised on the TV.
Yes, you have. And we're selling on the TV a video cassette series on the Vietnam series.
That's right, I saw that one.
Because we published a book series called The Vietnam Experience. And now HBO, it all interrelates. HBO has a movie which we're screening tomorrow night on its Letters from Vietnam. It should be as powerful as Platoon.
Wow.
It's many actors and actresses reading letters from our soldiers in Vietnam back home, with music donated by Bruce Springsteen. And
isn't it great?
Yeah, it's a powerful
You don't
thing.
have anything more tucked up your sleeve, do you?
Oh, it's well, that's
this is terrific. Yeah.
That's what's so much fun, really, about the business. There's so much creativity and I think opportunity.
Now, this is Mr. Gerald Levin, who is the Executive Vice President of Time Inc., and he's going to come back and he's going to tell you something about the excitement and flavor of his work as EVP, and then he's going to give you an idea how you could get started in Now I'm Stuck. It's everything. It's cable, it's publishing, it's
Right.
what are we going to call it?
Communications.
Okay. Communications, and this is a chat with Glendora. More of the flavor of the excitement of your daily work as EVP Time Inc.
Well, I think what I want to emphasize, particularly to young people, is that the reason I believe that communications or media companies are imaginative and evocative places to work. While we go about our business and have meetings, even a timing board meeting, as soon as our technical business is done, we immediately turn to a discussion of issues, national, international, because fundamentally what the company is about is the business of ideas and communicating ideas, so that there's an intellectual flavor that's very practical, particularly when journalism is at the root of the company, and you're constantly trying to find ways to have beneficial influence and impact on our national agenda. And if ever there were a time when that is important, it is today, given the economic chaos that we have and the need for clarity of thinking. And it should be represented not just in our information vehicles, but also in the way we entertain. Just to use as an example, we're very proud at HBO of having done HBO films on Andrei Sakharov even before Glasnost, or more recently to have done a film on Nelson Mandela, to approach provocative and important issues in a dramatic format is just another way of informing and enhancing the American public.
Jerry, thank you so much. Now, what advice would you give actually to get started in patients today?
Well, schooling is very important. It almost doesn't matter whether you specialize in a communications course or a journalism school, but the ability to have your own communication skills, just the fundamentals of reading, writing, and the force of personal advocacy, I think is very important. And then to have a broad curiosity about the world and the issues, because the funny thing about the communications business, it does not require narrow specialties, but the ability to relate to our world and to adapt to change, and that requires the broadest possible outlook in education.
We want to thank you very much. Is there anything else you want to tell the boys and girls?
No, just that we're always here. We believe strongly in encouraging young people to be a part of the communications environment.
Very nice. Thank you, Mr. Gerald Levin, and this is Chat with Glendora. Boys and girls, we combined two interesting careers here tonight. One is in finance, and the other is in advertising. And this is Mr. Patrick Hare. Hi, Pat.
Hi, Glenda.
Good. How are you?
Not bad.
Patrick, you were born where?
I was born in Flushing, Queens.
You were born in Flushing. You still live in Queens, don't you?
I still live in Queens. New York boy.
And you went to school where?
Well, I went to school at St. John's University.
You did?
For 4 years, and after graduation, I went to Price Waterhouse. I was at Price Waterhouse, which is a public accounting firm, and I was there for 5 years.
Yes.
And then I started my advertising career at Caffrey McCall.
Did you?
Yes, and I was there for almost 9 years.
Really? My goodness.
I wanted to get into accounting, and at the time I really didn't know what accounting was all about. And a friend of mine who was a purser in the Navy, a purser is an individual who takes care of the money, he said, well, you know, no matter what company you go to, there will always be a need for someone to count the money. I said, just like a band always needs a drummer, whether you have a trio or a quartet or a quintet, right up to the big band, there's always a need for a drummer. Well, the same thing with you always need someone who can control the finances, control the books, and determine whether or not you meet a profit, how well you're doing. So I said, gee, that sounds pretty good. So
I thought that it would be a nice idea for you to meet Dr. Robert Schuler, who is the pastor of the Cathedral, and his program has been on TV for 17 years, and you can see it here in New York on Channel 5 at 6 a.m. and also Sundays, and also on Channel 11 at 7 a.m. and also on that Long Island television station, what's it, Channel 54 or something. And so I wrote a letter, and I asked if Dr. Schuler could appear on a Chat with Glendora, and I received an answer from his secretary, Marjorie Kelly, and she said that he wouldn't be in New York very soon, and I didn't really feel that I would like to go all the way out to California. So I wrote her back a letter, and I asked maybe if he could do it over the telephone. And so about a week later, around 11:30 in the morning, I called the telephone number that was on her letterhead, and let's see, that it was on a Saturday around 11:30, that's right, in the morning. And a man answered, and I said, is Marjorie Kelly there? And she'll be in on Monday. And I said, would you kindly give her a message? And he said, surely. And I said, could Marjorie Kelly please call Miss Glendora? And the man said, is this Miss Glendora, the beauty queen of Glendora, California? And I said, no, this Glendora is a person 3,500 miles from Glendora, California. And I said, would she, Marjorie Kelly, please call area code 914-949. And the man said, well, what is this about? And I said, well, first of all, you need a telephone number. So I said 914-949-9495. And would you please ask Marjorie Kelly if she received the letter that I wrote her in answer to the letter that she wrote me. And it was about Dr. Schuler. And the man said, well, what was in the letter? And I said, well, who are you? And he says, I'm Dr. Schuler. So I said, oh, I said, well, it was about on my program at Chat with Cliff that you wouldn't be to New York very soon, and I was wondering if you could do it over the telephone. And he said, very possibly. And I said, now, when could you do that? And he said, well, I'll do it now. So here is the interview with Dr. Robert Schuller for you boys and girls.
And now, boys and girls, Dr. Schuller is going to talk to you and going to tell you about his career in case you might like to get started on such a career yourself. Hello, Dr. Schuller.
Hello, Miss Glendora.
How are you?
I'm terrific, thank you.
Dr. Schuller, you were born where?
Alton, Iowa. Nobody ever heard of it unless they live 7 miles from it.
7 miles from it?
Yes.
And what is it near?
It's near a bunch of other little towns that nobody ever heard of it. It's up in the northwest corner of Iowa, near where the corner of Iowa touches Minnesota and South Dakota. It's where it gets 20 below zero in the wintertime and the snow gets 10 feet high. Burrow tunnels.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
And where it gets so hot in July, corn grows, and then all the children can buy cornflakes and cereal.
Now, where did you go to school, Dr. Schuller?
I went to a little country school for the first 8 years. Then I would take a lunch pail, and I would go on the country road and walk up a country to country road with corn growing on both sides. It would be about a mile, or that's about 10 blocks in an average town. And there was one little building, one room. Walked to the front door. In this one room, there were about 30 desks and a blackboard and a piano and some books and shelves. And those 30 students sitting in those 30 seats, some of these were first grade students. When I was in the first grade, there were 7. And then some were in other grades. Probably only 2 in the 8th grade, and one teacher taught everybody.
One teacher?
Right.
And how many years were you in that school?
I was there for 8 years, because that school was covered education from first grade through 8th grade. And then I graduated, and then I would go to high school. So I would still walk that mile to the same corner, wait at that square little building, and a big yellow bus would come along with dust blowing the wheels and would stop, and I would climb in the bus. And now I would go as a freshman to high school, and that would be about 6 miles away. It would stop and pick up other children in the country. And in high school, there were 14 of us in the freshman class. And that was a big class, because for years I was just in this class of 7. Went there 4 years. And then after I graduated from high school, I came down that same country road, only I
Just one thing now. What did you take in college? What course?
Well, I took, first of all, this is a college that's affiliated with the North American Association of Accredited Colleges and Universities. It's like Harvard and Yale. It's the association requires that you have to take a minimum of, let's say, 8 hours in science courses, and you have to take a minimum hours in English and the basic introduction. In my case, I majored in social studies, history, and psychology.
Did you find that was a good background for what you eventually chose to do?
Yes, when you go to college, a counselor was assigned to you, and they asked you what you want to do, and then we'd try to pick out the kind of preparation. No, what I'm about at the time. So what other questions do you have?
And what was your position out of college?
Well, out of college, I went straight to seminary, remember? After 3 years
of
theological school.
Out of seminary, what was your first?
Seminary, I went to a church in Chicago, Illinois, and I was there for 5 years. It was a little church with 30 members. After 5 years, it was about 500 members.
Oh, good.
And I was called to come out here to California. I was called by my denomination, which is the Reformed Church in America. That's a denomination that started in 1628 when 54 colonists got on a boat and they sailed across the wild Atlantic, and they landed on the bleak island, which we now call Manhattan Island.
Yes, you have a famous church in Schenectady, New York. Do you know that one?
Yes, of course.
And we have one here in Westchester. We have one in...
You have one in Westchester. That's
Community Church. Well, yes, and then we have another one up here in Ardsley.
Right, and so that denomination has well to the college. College, you see?
I see.
And that church, they had a little church that I went to in Chicago. Then they called me to start a church in California in 1955, and I have been here 32 years.
Wow.
I'm having a wonderful time. But it's been wonderful
talking to you.
Well, one last question, Dr. Schuller. What advice would you give a youngster to get started on such a career today?
I would say, first of all, because I'm religious, you might expect a religious answer, which means regardless of the religion, I would teach them to find a religion that teaches them to pray. And to pray means to discover what God wants me to do and what he wants me to be. And then to believe. Second thing is to believe that they can go anywhere from where they are. They can do anything from that they want to do. And that means that they can see, they can dream, and their dreams can come true.
Very good, Dr. Schuller. Now, we want to thank you so much for taking time to go on the show and tell the children about your career.
Thank you, Miss Glendora.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, folks. Welcome to Glendora Cheerful Life. The policeman says, "Why did you park there?" And the motorist says, "There's right up there that says fined for parking." Two secretaries at the IRS standing next to each other, and one of them says, "Oh, there's another good one. Bachelor, no dependents, and $45,000 a year." You remember the IOU? Yeah, now it's I owe everybody. And the auditor was standing over the secretary's shoulder, and she says, "What's this in the books? ESP, $21.98. And the secretary says, "ESP stands for error someplace." Miss Morgan was out riding in the bus with Herbie, and she said, "Herbie, you were a very tidy boy not to put your orange peelings on the floor of the bus. Where did you put them?" And Herbie says, "In the coat pocket of the man sitting next to me." The state was holding exams to hire somebody to work at the state dam, and so Hal went and filled out the application, and he had to take the exam. And the first question on the exam was, "What does hydrodynamics mean?" And Hal wrote down, "It means I don't get the job." The Valentine party in the 3rd grade was supposed to go like this. Every little boy was supposed to bring in a little box of candy, and he'd come in and draw the name of a girl, and the girl and the little boy would sit down and eat their candy. And Timmy was all upset because he didn't draw Susie's name. And the teacher said, "Well, surely there are other pretty girls in the class." And Timmy says, "Yes, there are. Susie was the only one who couldn't eat candy." And as discharge time comes in the Army, everybody hurries things up and does things as fast as possible. So there was a sign on the optometrist's office. It said, "Until discharge time, Dr. Sanders will examine only one eye." The year 1993.